Hey everybody, this is Perch. Why don't pros lawyer up? I get this question a lot, and there's actually a really simple, almost one sentence answer. They don't have the money to do that, and that's pretty much that's a lot of it. But let's read this mail. Ask this question. It says hello. So it actually says hell. Sir Perchington the Third Esquire. Hell. All right. I sent you an email about the subject before, and I don't know if you received it. Given your schedule and the title, you may have missed it, ignored it, or thrown it to the fires of Mount Doom. This is the part where I say something antagonistic to dare you to answer this in a video. Still sitting here with close to 20,000 unread messages. That's probably bad. Anyway, before the true email starts, I want to say I hope you and your family are okay. At this time, the mail is written in Texas, was being hit by a hurricane. I know the power companies down there are D-bags. Hope you made it through all right. I did, and I wasn't in the country anyway for it. So there you go. That's what you do in Texas. You leave. When the problems get tough, you leave. That's the state motto. No, wait, I don't think it's come and take it on vacation. That's how it works. Anyway, to the subject, you often talk about the absurd number of comic creators getting stiffed by the big two and the frankly life-altering amount of money people are missing out on. In early January 23, you said somebody was stiffed 15 grand. It's rarer when it gets up to that number, but it happens. Yeah. And in some cases, well, anyway, we'll get through the rest of this now. I know comic creators are scared chumps, but it sounds like there is more than enough to put together a class action lawsuit. So this is the first problem, and we'll get into the others. But the first problem is, and this is kind of the dirty secret of the legal system. It's not necessarily a dirty secret, though. It's that, legal justice takes money, or at least a promise of money. And so, you see these kind of nice Hallmark movies about like the single mother who's, living on food stamps and scraps, and the evil corporation has poisoned the well, and now she's going to take them to sue. But how is she going to go up against big business? It's impossible. And then some brave lawyer takes on the case through justice and helps out. And I mean, it makes for a nice movie. It doesn't really happen that way. And when cases are taken pro bono, basically where they're not charging the person, there's kind of a not a mathematical equation, but something going on there that is telling the legal firm that, hey, it's worth taking this case because we're going to get money on the back end. This woman has no money to pay us, but we're going to take a big chunk of money, and the case is winnable. We're going to put some time into it, and we can make it back. And that's how a lot of justice works. Are there lawyers out there who are just good-hearted people who are taking cases in their spare time just out of the good of their hearts and everything else? It happens, but it doesn't happen nearly as much as you would believe, based on TV. So, money. The comic creator doesn't have money. A class action lawsuit sounds like it'd be big money, but it wouldn't. I mean, going to chase people down for, $15,000 a pop in a contractor agreement, it's there's a moral aspect to this, but it would be in a lot of cases hard to prove in court. The volume of cash doesn't add up anywhere close to where it'd be worth doing for people. And I mean, I like all these reasons. That's the big factor. Anyway, back to your bill. So I know they're scared, but half of these people are working on 12 comics a year. They make more of begging on X-Men than they do working for begging on X, Twitter. There's a problem with Twitter. I don't like X. Begging on X than they do working for the big two. And if they get blacklisted for coming for their money, that makes them they're begging even better. I don't know about that. So Vita could easily be like, I can't get work with the industry because the big two don't like trans people who know their worth, and get a ton of donation. I don't think Vita would. I think what would happen is there would be an initial bump. I'm like, oh man, I'm sorry, that's terrible. Anyway, but Vita would never work for Marvel or DC again, ever. Or, and this is probably more what's going on in Vita's mind. I don't pertain to know what's going on in Vita's mind, but more of it would be like, I want to go work for Penguin Random House, or I want to go work for, Simon & Schuster. I want to go work for a bigger company or movies, and, making trouble for a smaller group like Marvel in their eyes would blacklist them from future work, not just with the big two, but with other companies. You don't want to be known completely as a troublemaker. That's why, several of the people who are loudest on Twitter or X, you notice they aren't getting bigger jobs, or they struggle to get bigger jobs, or they do get a bigger job in charity. Like, hey, a friend of mine got me connected with Zack Snyder. And so I did a small project writing a comic book for Zack Snyder based on Rebel Moon. I'm just pulling hypothetically this out of the air, not talking about anyone in particular. But, and then, you get one comic, but it doesn't really, expand to anything else. And you're left more or less just saying, I'll bet this is going to piss off all the Snyderverse people. Okay. Yeah, but that doesn't feed you. That doesn't give you a vacation in Majorcas. That doesn't help. So, that's the problem is you if you went nuclear on Marvel or DC, you would get an initial sum of money, and some of these people have. I think DeCampi and Fowler in different times have tried some of this, and they do get some initial lift, but it quickly goes back to the standard amount you're going to get for begging, and there are a lot of people in that position, and people are going to be more kind of interested in giving you money are in the same situation themselves. So it's a race to the bottom very, very quickly. It's not a career. I was going to say you can't make a career on begging. Obviously, some people have, but it's not a good career, especially in comics. And I'm kind of waving away the fact that some of these people actually probably do want to work in comics. Like they like comics. So you just can't go on the attack on this stuff. Anyway, it says, back to the mail. It says, really, given the number of underpaid non-cis people, they could sue on the grounds of discrimination. Why are all the white guys paid on time? It wouldn't hold up, though, because very famously, a lot of white guys haven't been paid on time either. Like, in this instance, the big two are colorblind in screwing people. All right. So I know it's just the industry practice to abuse the lesser known and less profitable creators, but when that overwhelmingly impacts minorities, DC and we'll have a hard time in court proving that it was just bad practices and not targeting people based on Title IX traits. It seems to me all you need is a bunch of people who are not getting much regular work, a few big names who don't do much work and won't care if they don't get to work anymore, and a couple people too valuable to let go like Bendis and King. The real difficulty, besides the courage, seems to be collecting people in a relatively anonymous way so that things don't get back to the suits before enough people sign on. And it occurs to me that you could be that guy. People tell you this stuff, they don't tell their editors. They do tell their editors, they just don't give a shit. You funnel people to a lawyer, confidentially collecting names for class action, then bam, one of the big two gets hammered into selling and fixing their business practices. Am I wrong? Are creators too cowardly? Do I not understand class action lawsuits well enough? What are your thoughts? Signed, the guy who tells Zach to read Alien Legion. Man, everyone should read Alien Legion. Alien Legion is great. Sorry, especially people who like kind of military comics and everything else and some sci-fi. Alien Legion is wonderful. Like, absolutely underline on that one. Okay, so yeah, class action lawsuits don't work exactly the way I think you're thinking in terms of kind of the money and bringing people together. You have to have damages that are not just applicable to a person, but for a group of people. And it's a little hard. I mean, it's been done, but it's hard to do class action lawsuits that are racially prejudicial, meaning, you can do them where it's like, black people are suing for racially motivated discrimination, and you could have it, but it's got to be like really, really clear cut, because you're basically saying, because the way part of how a class action lawsuit is you're pulling in people on their behalf. Like, we're suing you, but there's other people who are not involved in this lawsuit that were also harmed. And you have to start to make that case. And to make that case for, say, all black people at Marvel or DC, it would be very hard to do, or all non-straight people. It wouldn't hold up either, because we're really talking about two things. It's are you damaged by not getting offers, not getting work, not getting possibilities? That's usually where a class action lawsuit goes. Or are you damaged by not getting paid on time? And the not getting paid on time, I mean, the argument that you would give would be, yeah, but we hired, non-white people, non-straight people. We hired them for these work. If we didn't, they're complaining about not getting paid on time. Well, in some cases that's true. We'll get more to that in a second. But we hired them in the first place, didn't we? So therefore, how are we prejudiced? We can't be prejudiced because we brought them in, even if down the road things didn't go right. It just that's the argument would get very clunky. And then back to what I said earlier, there's just not enough money in it for people to really dig in and care. Even if damages were established, the other problem here is Class action lawsuits work really well when there's both a real number damage and then the perception of more damage. And what I mean by that is like, okay, so let's say a corporation is dumping chemicals in a river, and you have the medical bills, you have the fixed costs, the stuff was a problem from this environmental damage. You also have the future earning potential, the kind of life expectancy that's been dropped, and how do you put a number on that? So there's both real and intangible numbers, and that's class action lawsuits work best when you're able to pull those two pieces together, to formulate this was a blanket problem that harmed a lot of people. With comics, if you were still getting work, you just weren't getting your royalties on time, or somebody gave you a project and pulled it away. Well, you have the fixed part cost, but it's hard to it's really be very hard to pin down and here's the other money that we didn't get as a result of this behavior. It just did, you kind of know the amount, which also, and the amount is small, all things considered. The other problem though in all this is, it's too random. So in this case, and I've talked to people at the Big Two. I talked to one guy in particular that would desperately love to just come on and do the interview, who has said and is very aggressive with this. I don't mean that in a mean way, but will say no. This big company, this publisher, did not screw people over on royalties, and it's kind of in the wording, because what happens is that you don't necessarily get outwardly screwed over. There's definitely comic companies where somebody promises something, they sign a contract, and they never send the check, and they're just like, we're just not going to pay you. What happens more often is that you're owed royalties for things. You're owed royalties if they reprint, say, your work in a trade. The company doesn't tell you that they've reprinted in a trade. Maybe through malpractice, maybe intentionally, maybe not. And in a lot of cases, it's not. The editor's just like, I don't know what's going on. The trade's going over here and over there. Like, I mean, maybe they find out about this stuff, but communication is ass in these companies. And so, the creator then doesn't get informed that they're owed royalties. The company doesn't, is not tracking that either, doesn't reach out. In theory, the editor for that creator can kind of help work on that person's behalf, but they're shuffling out all the time. So a lot of cases, the creator finds out a long time later that, hey, we're owed something, and then they're in the position to go chase. And in a lot of cases, a creator's pissed off because they're like, I should have just gotten paid like 3 years ago, and I should have gotten paid. And, so that now they're trying to be really nice to the publisher because they haven't got the money yet. And they're like, hey, just checking in. It feels like you probably owe me some money. Ha ha, don't want to be mean. Also, do you have any work? And so that's how this whole thing gets very, very awkward. And anyway, how do you solve that? I mean, how could I help solve this? It's a good question. It's a good push. So I'll give you one idea. And I don't know if this is actually feasible, but I'm thinking off my head, as I do on these videos. Taking the legal route, as I say, I don't think that's viable for a lot of reasons. And I don't think it would get people where they want. And quite frankly, bluntly, a lot of comic creators would not participate, not want to get on because of the fear of being blacklisted as a result. And let's be honest, it's a real fear. It's a legitimate fear. They would be. There definitely be some people who are like, you are a troublemaker, and you get blacklisted. Absolutely. It happens at the drop of a hat. Publishers will make these kinds of decisions based on kind of whims of what they're thinking at the moment of, how somebody is showing up or behaving. It's not fair. One thing I think that could be done, and it would take more work, and it would be a labor of love, and it would be a altruistic labor of love, meaning money wouldn't come out of it. But I'd be up for this, is that, you basically create a kind of, it's kind of like, LexisNexis kind of database where all of the releases, all of the solicitations, all of the comics are going into this database. This wouldn't be hard to do. The information is coming out on a regular basis. It goes in, and then it gets tagged with the creators involved. Now, this would be more work because the publisher do such a shit job in reprints of tagging people properly that this would create some manual work. Potentially, you could crowdsource this a little bit, or you could have a bunch of people contributing. But basically, in this database, you have all the comics, you have the stuff coming out, You have the names of, who's attached to whatever comic. And then creators can come in and they can sign up for alerts. And basically they put in their name, their email address, and they it's basically like, alert me when my name pops up on something getting published. And this would do a few things. It would tell the creators, hey, here's when my comic, the monthly comic I know, is actually going out. So I can, kind of be aware that it's in market and I can promote or do other things. Here's when trade paperbacks or reprints of things I've done in the past are coming out. So I can, know when that material is out in the market. But also I know when royalties should start hitting. I know when I should start getting communication from the publishers. And that seems where a lot of stuff fall down. It's basically a notification system. You could also build some logic in there to say, alert me when something is solicited, alert me when it actually gets printed and published and out, when it's for sale, and alert me 45 to 60 days later to follow up with my publisher that I'm owed money. And you could create some form letters there that are nice and professionally done. Maybe this is where you get a lawyer to help a little bit to create a really nice, clear but firm mail of, hi there, I worked on this comic, which was published on this date, and based on the terms of my agreement, I'm owed a royalty. A lot of this could happen automatically. Wouldn't be that expensive to do. Could be a pretty interesting service and helpful. So maybe I should go build that. That wouldn't be bad, or at least fund it. How about that? What do you guys think? What would that look like for people on this channel, viewers? What if I took the ad revenue that I don't like and frankly just causes me headaches, and I sunk money into that? How would that be? And we get this thing built, basic website, database, mechanism to kind of get comics in, alerting system for creators. I mean, hell, this could also be an interesting thing for fans as well, customers, where they put their favorite creators into this, they basically have a query, and then they also get alerted like, hey, did you know that, Rob Liefeld's doing this, new Youngblood type series? Didn't see it. Here you go. Here it is. And, maybe with a comic store finder attached to it. I don't know. Could be an interesting idea. Let me know your thoughts in the comments below. Thank you very much for the mail, and thanks for listening.